As Americans are figuring out how to stay connected despite social distancing, so are the members of Congress. Even though they are considered essential workers, most senators and representatives have left Washington and returned home to their districts. The Senate convened Thursday for a brief pro forma session, but few lawmakers were in attendance. Congress is set to reconvene April 20th, but until then, most business will be done remotely. For more on how Congress members are coping with this new normal, let's bring in CBS News political reporter Grace Segers. She joins me now from Alexandria, Virginia. Hi, Grace. Thank you so much for being with us. So, Grace, as you know, people are finding a lot of different ways to stay connected during this period of social isolation. How are members of Congress choosing to stay in touch?
Well, it's actually very similar to what most workers are doing, where they're doing Zoom calls and conference calls and phone calls. And a lot of times members of Congress are connecting with their constituents through Facebook Live, through Instagram Live. They're doing virtual town halls. So it's very much like what the rest of us are doing, only the congressional way.
And what are they saying about how effective this has been?
Well, I spoke to Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna, and he said that it's actually a bit difficult to connect with people because so much about politics is about empathy and being physically there with someone. But he said that it's still possible to connect with people via Instagram Live or Facebook Live, and that he is able to hear them and to chat with them through video conferencing and understand their problems. It's just a different kind of way to connect with people rather than being face to face.
Sure. And Grace, as you know, security experts have raised alarms about Zoom and how secure those meetings can be. Did lawmakers express any concerns about that?
Yes, so in the Senate Sergeant at Arms has recommended that senators not use Zoom due to concerns about security and concerns about privacy. They aren't forbidden from using Zoom, but it's not recommended. I was told by Congressman Khanna that he often is still using Zoom, so those restrictions haven't gone to the House. But there is some concern about whether it is the safest way to connect with others.
Right. And Grace, obviously, there's still a lot going on in Washington between stimulus relief bills and new public guidelines related to the coronavirus. How is this situation impacting communication between Democratic leaders and the White House?
It's funny because there's still lots of communication between Democratic leaders and the White House, but where they normally might meet in person, such as Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin coming to the Capitol, now they're doing phone conferences. So this past week, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Vice President Mike Pence had a conference call about the coronavirus. So they are still connecting. It's just instead of being in person, it's being over the phone.
And speaking of connecting, Grace, in a normal disaster scenario in this country, members of Congress would normally be out touring the impacted communities, meeting with people on the ground. How are they reaching out to people during this pandemic?
Well, I spoke to Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, and he spoke about how difficult it was to not be out there in the field to help constituents. But last week, he did something that his office called a teletour, where he spoke via video conference and via phone calls with constituents and with organizations like regional chambers of commerce, like the Texas Association of Truck Drivers. So it is still possible for them to connect, but again, it's being done remotely instead of the traditional way of face-to-face.
Grace Segers, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.